friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Aubrey. I'm so happy to have you all here with me today. So for this week's video, we are actually going to do what I meant to do last week. Unfortunately, last week was just really stressful. There was a lot going on, headaches included, and it just didn't work out to have time to film and edit and get everything ready. So we're going to do this video this week instead. But we are actually going to go over a media wrap-up for the first quarter of 2025. So essentially, we're going to go through all of the podcasts, TV shows, movies, video games, I think that's it, that I watched or played or listened to during the first quarter of the year. Because I just think that this is fun. I like stories in all forms, not just books. And so I think it's fun to go over stories that are found in other mediums as well, because they can be just as good as the ones that we read in books. And so we're just going to go through all of these, not in the order that I engaged with them, but we're just going to start with podcasts, then we'll do TV shows and movies, and then video games. So for podcasts, I only listened to 2 different podcasts during the first 3 months. The first one is Lore. Lore is one of my favorite podcasts of all time. It is done by a guy named Aaron Mahnke, and essentially it talks about the folklore and legends and strange historical events, unexplained phenomena, tales that people tell that are not necessarily proven, but, local beliefs, all sorts of things of that nature. And I love it so much. I have been listening to this podcast for years, and I go through spells where I'll listen to a lot all at once, and then, maybe take a break and listen to something else, or work, with, maybe I'm in the mood to listen to a lot more music. But I did listen to some Lore in the first few months of the year, and so for the main podcast, I listened to 3 episodes, so episodes 267, 268, and 269, and then I also listened to Lore Legends, which is kind of like a subset of episodes that talk about stories that are not necessarily ingrained folklore and believed by a lot of people. They're also not historical phenomenon that are recorded and proven, but they're legends, hence the name, that people have told or have claimed have occurred. And so for that podcast, or that subset of the podcast, I listened to episodes 40 through 43. So, as I said, I just love lore. I love learning about strange stories and folklore and legends and things that people have never been able to get a good explanation for. And I think Aaron Mahnke does a phenomenal job of giving you the information as it is presented, but he also tells you when there are skeptics and people who oppose these stories or these viewpoints, he will go over that as well, and he'll leave it up to you as the listener to decide what it is that you believe, which I think is really cool. Because it's not trying to push you one way or the other, although the point of the podcast obviously is to discuss these strange events and phenomena that have occurred. For this little set of episodes, one that I really found interesting was the one about Christmas legends. So obviously, where I live, we talk about Santa Claus, right? Coming to visit on Christmas Eve. But I've also heard legends about Krampus. I have heard different stories about Santa, Saint Nicholas, that are from other parts of the world and other time periods. But this particular episode went over a number of legends that are related to Christmas that I had never heard of before from different places in the world, and I thought it was so fascinating. Just this idea that people will tell their kids that terrible things will happen to them if they don't behave. There was one legend, and I can't remember where it was from, but it had to do with clothing. If you are not presented with a new piece of clothing, a sweater, socks, something, as a Christmas present on Christmas, you basically get taken away or eaten or something terrible like that. And he talks about, where some of these stories may have originated from. This idea that at that point in time, in this particular place. And like I said, I cannot for the life of me at the moment, I'm just drawing a blank on what country this legend is from. But, you know, it was up to a lot of the family members to make clothes for the family. Like, they weren't going out and having money to purchase a lot of clothing. And obviously hand making clothes takes time and effort, and when you're also trying to run a household or work at a job or whatever it is you're doing, you know, that's a lot to do on top of what you already have to do. So the idea was maybe that the kids might help out, or that they are going to behave while their parent is working on these clothes because they want to make sure that they get a new article of clothing at Christmas. And it was just really interesting. But yeah, I mean, he talks on this podcast about everything from ghosts to serial killers to vampires to, like I said, folklore. It's fascinating. And then the other podcast that I listened to was National Park After Dark. This is a fairly recent discovery of mine. I started listening to this podcast last year. It is hosted by two ladies, Cassie and Danielle, who are friends, and they essentially talk about stories, historical stories, or survival stories, or tragic stories that occur in or are connected with national parks. Mostly they focus on parks in the United States, although they have discussed some parks in other countries. And it's so good. I will say, do be careful of both of these if you are squeamish, or don't like to hear about death, because it does feature, not in every lore episode obviously, but a number of them do discuss tragedy, and National Park After Dark has a lot of death in it. Obviously, again, not every episode, but they do tend to appreciate morbid stories, the morbid and the macabre, but it's just so interesting, and they do something really cool where they tell you a lot about the park as well. So before they get into the day's story, they go over information about the park, you know, how many visitors it receives annually, how big it is, information about the flora and fauna, when it was established, you know, things like that. Because part of the whole point of this podcast is to raise awareness for natural spaces, national parks in particular. And as someone who finds conservation really, really important, I just connect with Cassie and Danielle so much. Also, Danielle and I share a birthday, which is really cool. But I listened to 4 episodes of this one in the first quarter. So starting with the episode titled Surviving the Worst Weather on the Planet, White Mountain National Forest, and then that one, and then the 3 after that. So I really love the survival stories that they go over. I mean, some of them are just insane. One of my favorite episodes, which was not in this, like that I listened to last year, is the one about the Jenny Lake Rangers. It is just crazy. The competence of this rescue team at Jenny Lake in Wyoming. I mean, it's just insane. But yeah, I really like the survival stories, although they can be very stressful. They can get under your skin and make you just like really anxious and worried while you're listening to them. But it's just, some of these stories would make great movies. They also do stories dealing with animals and human-animal interactions, and sometimes, unfortunately, those do deal with animal attacks. Like, one that I listened to in this little grouping was the one about the Champawat tiger, and the attacks that occurred. And it's awful and horrific to listen to, but they also are really good about highlighting why these attacks occur, why this pattern of behavior is established in certain animals, and how 9 times out of 10 it is a result of human interference in that animal's life that is causing, you know, them to have to find a new pattern of behavior, a new feeding pattern, that sort of thing. And again, I just think that the things that they discuss can be so important to really talk about the way that we affect nature and the way that we interact with nature, in national parks and outside of them, but obviously their focus is in national parks. They also did, in these 4 episodes, one about the Kraft family, so this couple who was escaping from slavery, and it was a story that I had never heard before, and it is so incredible. Like, I highly recommend that episode. It was just like you're on the edge of your seat the whole time and you're thinking like, are they going to make it? Are they going to make it? There are all these things that are happening that could have just ruined everything and had them sent back to their enslavers, and it's such a good story. They actually mentioned in the episode that it would also make a good movie, and I completely agree. A movie or a series. It's amazing. And then the last episode I listened to from this podcast in those 3 months was one on Burke and Hare, the famous body snatchers and serial killers. If you have never heard of Burke and Hare, it is like, I'm already very familiar with that story. And what they did, they were some terrible people, but it's still interesting. Every time you hear someone talk about something like that, you learn, new information. You hear, you get something new that you didn't know before, some new piece of the puzzle. And they actually start out by talking about the discovery of these tiny little like figurines and how they are potentially connected to Burke and Hare's crimes. And it was just so interesting. Like, these two podcasts are just amazing. They're so great to listen to. I listened to Lore on like 1.5 speed because I accidentally had it set to that when I started listening to it. And now if I try to listen to it on normal speed, it just sounds so slow because I'm so used to it. But they're just great to listen to while you're doing things, while you're driving. It's like, doing things around your house, whatever. I just love it. I just love it. My mom doesn't really like gruesome stuff, so some of the more macabre episodes, I just have to like tell her about parts of it, and like we can just sit there and talk about these stories because she also finds them fascinating. She just doesn't like all the gruesome bits. We can just sit there and talk about them like for ages. It's so good. And everyone I've recommended these two who have started listening to them have really liked them. So if you like macabre, if you like history and legends, and you like national parks and conservation, Lore and National Park After Dark are phenomenal podcasts. Okay, so now let's move on to TV shows and movies. So first, I continued an anime that I had actually started late last year, and that is A3, Act Addict Actors. It's split into 2 seasons. Each season is 12 episodes, but each season kind of has like a mini season of 6 episodes because it is about a theater in this little like town that is very much about theater and plays and performance and acting. And this particular theater, called Mankai Theater, is down on its luck. It only has 1 member at the beginning of the first season, and is like buried in debt and is in danger of being closed. So the daughter of a previous performer shows up, or a previous director shows up, and she takes it upon herself to get this theater thriving. So the way that the theater system works in this particular show is this theater has 4 different troupes, one that performs during each season. So that way during the off seasons they can have breaks and prepare for their next performance. And so that's kind of how the episodes are broken up. So season 1, the first 6 episodes are spring troupe, the second 6 episodes are summer troupe, and then season 2 has fall troupe and winter troupe. So I finished the last few episodes of summer troupe and then watched all of season 2 in the first quarter, and it's just so fun. It's like an all-male performing group, and they are just, the personalities are so over the top, and it's so silly and ridiculous and dramatic, and I love it so much. Like, I really fell in love with so many of these characters, and it took, actually, at the end of last year, I had started watching it, and I was like, my mom would really like this. So what I did was I started over and rewatched it with her, and then just continued on with her. So she actually had watched it all with me as well, and we loved it so much. The only thing is, I wish that you got more of them as a theater troupe altogether. Like, you got to see more interactions between the different troupes as more people are being added in, and you do get to see some of that, but mostly each individual troupe, it focuses on that group of 5 guys. But it's just so fun. It's so fun. It's all about the love of acting and performance and storytelling and, finding yourself and finding what you're good at and finding a group of people to whom you belong and who you click with and who becomes like a family to you. And that's really what it's about. But it's also just so fun and silly at times. And I just really enjoyed it. It's so colorful and entertaining, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun. I wish there was like a third and fourth season where we got to see, like I said, the troupe as a whole and go back through each of the seasonal groups and see them do another performance. But unfortunately, this is all there is. Apparently, it is based on a mobile game, I think, which I did not know about. Um, but I think it might be. I'm really not sure, and I'm not sure if the game is even around anymore. But I looked up because there's this bird, this like parakeet, some kind of exotic bird that can, talk, that will just randomly show up. And my mom and I had kind of forgotten he was there, and we're like, wait, where did this bird come from? And I looked it up, and apparently he's much more prominent in the game, which is how I found out about it. But yeah, so anyway, if you've played the game, then you'll probably get even more out of the show, but it was a delight. It was a delight, and I love it so much. So then, I started another anime after I finished that one, which is Free, Iwatobi Swim Club. This anime is a staple in the anime community, especially with sports anime. It is about a high school swim team that is formed, and the guys who are on the team, they're love for swimming and their relationships with one another and with another young man who is on a different team who they have a past with. And in the first quarter of the year, we watched the first 6 episodes of season 1 because, again, I had watched the first 6 episodes and I was like, you know what? My mom also really likes a good sports anime, and this one is wholesome and good, and I was like, she'd really like it. So again, we restarted that one. And we're much further along at this point, but I did restart that one so she could watch it with me as well. But it's so good. It's so good. I can see why it is so loved and why so many people enjoy it, and I'm so happy that there's like so much content for this. There are multiple seasons, multiple movies. I'm like thrilled because I love these boys so much, and their like manager, she is adorable. And it's so much fun to watch and try to figure out like what's going on with these characters and like their motivations, especially Rin, who is the one who is at a different school. But I love them. Haru, I really think he like really comes across as being on the autism spectrum to me. I don't know if that was intended, but that's just kind of how I see it. And I just love him. I love his just love for water and his just deadpan, like just the way he talks and what he does. And he's just precious. And Mako is such a mom. I love him. And Nagisa is just tiny and adorable, and I love his enthusiasm. And Ray, I love seeing Ray like finding his people and his group, and it's just so nice. I really, really enjoy it. But like I said, it is about a swim club. It is a sports anime, and it is just so much fun. But it's also really character focused on these boys and their relationships with one another, and it's a lot of fun. I really like it so far. And then I also, this is a show that I will put on if I'm like doing laundry or not feeling well and I just want something easy to have on to like watch, while I'm maybe have like a migraine or something, which is The Great British Baking Show. I love The Great British Baking Show so much. I used to put it on a lot when I was in my master's program because I worked as a GSA, and so I had to teach undergrad classes while being a student. And while I was grading papers, I would put on The Great British Baking Show to like give me something to make me happy and motivate me while I was grading. But in the first quarter of the year, I started Collection 12, which is the most recent collection that has been uploaded to Netflix, and I got through the first 4 episodes. And honestly, this is one of my favorite groups of contestants. I think I just really like them. I have gotten further than that now. I'm actually down to, I think I have 2 episodes left. that it's just so wholesome. If you've never seen the Great British Baking Show, it is a baking competition. Um, but it is not like any baking or cooking competition in the US. It is so wholesome. I love how so many of the contestants are so willing to help each other. It's like my mom and I were talking about it, and we decided that it's like they're not competing against each other so much as they are just trying to do their best. And obviously they are being judged, and people get eliminated. And so it is a competition, but it's like they don't want the others to do badly. They just want to do better. You know what I mean? So it's like they want the others to succeed as well. And I just really like this group of people. I really want Dylan to win because I really want Dylan to win because he wants to open a restaurant and like cook and be a baker as his job. And I just feel like he needs to win because that would be such a big boost for him. I also love Georgie, and yeah, I love Samaya too. And I mean, I don't want to say anything about who's gone and who stays or anything like that. But this group of people, I just really, really like them a lot. Nellie. I love Nellie so much. Her personality is just fantastic. But yeah, it's fantastic. So wholesome. Quintessential spring show, in my opinion. Okay, then Heaven Official's Blessing, or Tianguan Sifu, which is a donghua, or Chinese anime, that is based off of the novel series by Mo Sheng Tongshu. The studio released the first of 2 short films that they're doing that shows some of the like flashback portions in the novel series. I had found someone who had done a fan sub of it because unfortunately at that point there was not an official fan sub. I'm not sure if there is now or not, I haven't like checked, but this person had done captions in English, so I was able to watch it, and it's so cute. Baby Hong Hong R is the most precious baby ever. I love him. I will say the animation in the short film was a little choppier than I expected. It could have simply been because I was watching a fan sub and maybe them re-uploading it messed with the quality a bit. I'm not sure. But like the sword fight at the beginning didn't seem as smooth as the sword fights, like for example in season 1 of the donghua. But it was great. I love it. I loved seeing little Hong Hong R. I loved seeing his interactions with Prince Xilian, and it was so nice. And I'm so looking forward to the second one. I've talked about Heaven Official's Blessing at length in multiple videos, so I don't want to say too much. Don't watch the short film though without having watched seasons 1 and 2 of the donghua. You will be confused. It will not make sense. But yeah, I also recommend the novel series because it's fantastic. And then Murder, She Wrote. So my mom and I have seen most every episode of Murder, She Wrote. We actually went through at one point because we used to watch it when it would come on TV because there was this one channel it would come on. I think it was like 2 episodes every evening, and they stopped doing that, unfortunately. But then we found it on Amazon Prime, and so we went through and we watched every episode that takes place in Cabot Cove that we hadn't already seen, because at that point most of the episodes we've seen had been out of order anyway, and I do prefer to watch things in order, but it's like at that point it was kind of shot anyway. So we watched every episode that takes place in Cabot Cove that we hadn't seen because the Cabot Cove episodes are both of our favorites. And so now we started again going back through and just, when we're in the mood, watching any of the few episodes that we've missed. So we did watch one of those the first quarter, and that was season 1, episode 4. And it turns out we had both actually seen the ending of that episode, but had never seen the whole thing, which was kind of funny. But Murder, She Wrote is great. Jessica Fletcher is one of my favorite fictional characters of all time. I love her so much. So much. She is like one of my icons. She is just amazing and fantastic. And this one... So if you've never seen Murder, She Wrote, Jessica doesn't have any kids, but she has lots of nieces and nephews, and like adopted nieces and nephews who she's just kind of claimed. And Aunt Jess is the best, and this was an Aunt Jess episode. So it's just so fun to see the way that she interacts with her kids. It's great. And then I also watched a movie. So this one, my mom had actually already seen and recommended to me, and so she and I watched it together. It's called Rescued by Ruby. It's on Netflix. It's based off of a true story. And the story can actually be found in a book called Dog Winks, which my mom actually got a copy of because she wanted to do a unit with this story with her high schoolers. And it's about a shelter dog who is rescued and becomes a search and rescue dog for the police. And it is so good. It's all about believing in yourself even when other people don't believe in you, and believing in someone you love even when other people don't believe in them, and supporting them and overcoming your struggles and your differences, and how much having someone who has faith in you, like how much of a difference that can make in your outlook and your behavior and just your life in general, and just how much hard work can pay off. And it's a really good movie. I really, really liked it. We have since recommended it to my cousin and her husband, and they loved it. My aunt and uncle, they loved it. It's a really, really good, feel good sort of movie. And like I said, it's based off of a true story. And so, yeah, a few things, the timeline is kind of shortened at times and stuff, but compared to the real life events. But the basic, like, information, it is true. And it's incredible. It was such a good movie. Highly recommend if you love dogs and you just want to feel really good. Okay. Then I also finished season 2 of Ron Kamonohashi's Forbidden Deductions, so I saw episodes 21 through 26. I love this anime so much. I need the manga to be translated into English. I need it so badly. I need a publisher to pick up the license and publish it in English so that I can read it. Because it's so good. It is very Sherlock coded. It has a detective, Ron Kamonohashi, or Kamonohashi Ron, in like switching for Japanese. And he lives in Japan, and he had some tragic events in his past that have caused him to give up deductive work, and then detective work, and he ends up meeting a police officer, Toto. I love Toto. And they end up partnering up and solving crimes, and it's so good. It is so good. And if you love Sherlock Holmes, there are so many Sherlock Holmes like references in here. And now season 2 is over, and that's all that's out so far for the anime, and I was so excited, and then as soon as it ended, I was so sad. Like, immediately. I was like, I need more of this. I need more. But season 3, I don't even know if they've announced a release date for it. I need to look that up because I need it, like, immediately. I love a good detective story. I love a good Sherlock Holmes coded character. Ron is not Sherlockian in that he has a difficult time getting along with people. He actually can be very smooth and charismatic, but he is just like, all he wants to do is solve crimes. And him and Toto, like, watching them become friends and work together and trust one another is just amazing. And it's really over the top at times. It's really silly, but it is so genuinely fun. Like, I love it so much. And now at the end of season 2, we have this antagonist that's kind of been hinted at for a while is really, really coming to the forefront and coming into play, and it's just I need more. I need more. And then the last thing for the TV shows and movies section is Sasaki and Miyano. I did rewatch the entire first season, all 13 episodes. I love Sasaki and Miyano, so if you have seen my reading wrap up for the first quarter, I'll link it down below if you have not watched it, but I mentioned that I caught completely up on the Sasaki and Miyano manga and light novel series, and after I did, I was like, you know what, I missed the anime, so I went back and I rewatched the entire first season. I have not yet seen the movie Graduation yet because there is not an official English dub, and I did start watching this in the dub form, so I have to continue it in the dub or the voices sound wrong. Just like if I start watching it in the original language and it's subbed, that's the only way I can watch it forever, or else they don't sound right. And sometimes the sub is so much better because sometimes with dubs the translations get a little weird. I'm not sure if that's the case with Sasuke and Mino. It seems pretty spot on with the translations in the manga for the most part. So I'm just going to stick with the dub. But I have heard that Crunchyroll has agreed to put out a dubbed version of the movie, so now I'm just kind of waiting on that. But I love Sasuke Mino. It's such a wholesome romance. I feel like it's just perfect for the spring. And the anime is so pretty. It's genuinely really pretty. Just to watch it and see them, and I love it so much. Okay. And then the last thing for this wrap up, I played one video game in the first quarter, and that was Dragon Age the Veilguard. This is the most recent game in the Dragon Age franchise, and I did complete it. I started it at the end of last year, and I did complete it in the first quarter. I actually have a video that is completely dedicated to my thoughts on the game, so I will also link that below if you would like to watch that. So I'm not going to talk about it much here, but I really enjoy it. I know that it has its issues. As I say in that video, I think most of the issues just come down to the time that was spent developing this particular version of the game and the push to get it out as soon as possible because of the delays that had occurred. And I think that really that's what it comes down to. And I know that so many people have complaints to make, but a lot of the people who are complaining, first of all, some of them haven't even played the game. They're just saying that it looks awful. And then some of them, I mean, every Dragon Age game that's come out has had people who have had issues with it. So please don't take that to mean that it's a terrible game, because it's not. I go over, like I said in that video, there's most of it spoiler free. There is a small spoiler section. I do tell you when it is, and you can skip that if you've not played the game, where I go over my thoughts kind of in more detail. So feel free to watch that, but don't take the criticism to mean that this is a terrible game, because it's really not a terrible game, in my personal opinion. There was one thing that I forgot to mention in that video that did bother me, and that was the inconsistency with accents. So it's kind of established, I mean, they've never like said it outright, but it's just kind of been established that different races and different nationalities in the Dragon Age world, so in Thedas, have different accents, and for some reason, in Veilguard, and this is not the fault of the voice actors. I think they did a really good job. This is not their fault. I don't think I talked about this in that video. I'm going to talk about it here anyway, just in case. For some reason, they did not stick to that pattern. For example, Irilyn, I can't remember how to say her name correctly, has a distinctly Asian accent. I'm not 100% sure if it's Japanese or Chinese. I'm not very good at recognizing accents when people are speaking not their native language and identifying where it comes from. That's not a strong suit of mine. If you're speaking in English and you have an accent, I'm not really good at telling where it's from. But what's interesting about this is that she is a Dalish elf, and it's kind of been established that Dalish elves have sort of a Welsh accent, or at least like kind of a Britishy type accent, and that's not like Scottish, British, like that's sort of like, there have been some variations between different clans and different Dalish elves, Solus as an example, but other Solus isn't really Dalish, so I guess he doesn't count. He's just a wandering elf. But it's just that you know, is something that just kind of broke the mold, broke the pattern. But you know, just things like that I thought kind of seemed a bit odd, the sorts of choices they were making for voice actors and the accents. And again, this is not the voice actors' fault. I think that they all did well, very well. But it's just interesting that those choices were made, and I'm not really sure why. But anyway, like I said, I don't think the game is bad at all. I think that I very, very much enjoyed my time with it. I'm so glad that I played it. I'm definitely going to replay it when I do my Dragon Age read-through, watch-through, play-through extravaganza, where I go through all of the Dragon Age media in release order. So eventually I'll get back to Veilguard, and I am sure that I will enjoy my time with it a second time as well. But if you want to see, like I said, further thoughts on that, I will link the video dedicated to it below. But yeah, so that is all of the media that I consumed outside of books in the first quarter of the year. Not a ton um, of stuff because I've been trying to read more, and I also have just had so many things going on in my personal life. Um, and there are probably like just some random shows that I've seen, like when we were traveling, that I saw in the hotel room on the TV, stuff like that. Oh, actually, that's not true. We also watched the first two episodes of Destination Unknown? No. Expedition. Oh no, it's Josh Gates' new show where he talks about historical events and like new evidence that has emerged to try to explain them or solve them, and I can't remember the name of it. I'll put the name of it down here. We watched the first two episodes of that, and it's really good. So I'm probably missing some things on here because I decided kind of halfway through February that I was going to keep track of this, so I'm sure there's stuff that I forgot to include. But I'll do better going forward. I do want to do this for each quarter going forward like I do with my reading wrap-up, so I will keep a more diligent list and make sure that I don't miss anything. But yeah, like I said, that is all that I have to talk to you guys about today. I hope that you guys, today is Easter for me when I'm recording this. We actually just got back from lunch at my aunt's house, which was delightful. I made a nice lemon pie and it was so good. But yeah, so I hope that you guys have had a wonderful Easter if you celebrate, and if you don't celebrate, then I hope that you're still having a beautiful, wonderful week. And I hope that you are all finding wonderful stories to engage with, books, movies, shows, games, podcasts, whatever you are into and whatever you are enjoying. But yeah, if you want to let me know what you guys have watched or listened to or played recently, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Or if you also enjoy any of the things that I have mentioned or have thoughts about them you'd like to share, just please keep your comments spoiler free, as always. Or if there is anything you would like to recommend to me that you think I would enjoy, I love getting recommendations from you guys. And if you want to leave an emoji, let's do a bunny for Easter, or an Easter egg if there are Easter egg emojis. We'll put a little bunny down there, or an Easter egg. But I really love talking to you guys in the comments. It makes me really happy. So I hope that you are all having a wonderful day or wonderful night wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Bye! Ashley, Ashley, Ashley. The ears. Ashley. Hi, sweet boy.